Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Baggy, the Monster of Mother Nature, from 1984. So, this is a film, well, it's a TV movie, directed and written by Osamu Tezuka, who is famous in Japanese anime and manga. He created Astro Boy, he created Kimba the White Lion. He has a largely huge influence on anime and animation, and if we're being honest, probably one of the most influential figures in all of animation history. But not just Japanese animation, like animation history. We should say it that way. He was very bothered by the fact that in 1984, earlier in 1984, this actually aired on Nippon TV on August 19th, 1984. But before that, earlier in the year, the Japanese government had approved recombinant DNA research, which is basically like if you take DNA of two different things and combine it to make advances in food and healthcare is the basic general gist of it. And he was very much against this. So he decided to write and direct and make this movie, which clearly he made fast. It's made in TV animation, so if you think it looks like crappier as compared to like feature theatrical animation at the time, well, that's a stupid thing to compare it to because it wasn't made like that. It was made a lot quicker, or at least to my limited understanding. I couldn't find too much about this. But as a kind of idea on talking about DNA research, it's actually quite nuanced. This isn't a perfect TV movie by any stretch of the imagination. It's sort of all over the place, which I sort of like about it. Even the music is sort of all over the place, but I still actually was very compelled by this film. It starts off, you see this boy and he's looking for what is considered this monster, Baggy, who's like destroying these western villages, and you slowly find out that this boy has known Baggy from before. I hope I'm saying all these right. And Baggy used to be his friend, or you find out later, his pet, and she is a kind of a half human, half cat type person who has made that with DNA. Now, before you accuse me of being a furry, I watched this for research on a Saber Sparks video, and I thought, let's make my own review, so don't blame me. It has been noted in other reviews that this might be one of the first instances of this in anime, or that's what apparently Western people think, but they've even said that they don't, not a lot of older anime is released in America, so we might be missing a step or something like that, but this is one of the first instances of this. But I don't think this is mainly made to be a sexy cat girl thing. I think maybe, I don't know all the kind of fetish kinky anime stuff or whatever, but what he's doing with this is basically saying what I took Baggy to be is like, what if you created a creature like this who has no one else to belong to, no one to mate with, no one to relate to, no one who is the same species, so she's sort of stuck in this weird existential limbo because man had to play God, basically. And so he takes her and tries to help her find out what happened, takes her to the research lab where they find out where she was found and where she was originally his cat for a little bit, which makes this all sorts of weird. And then they end up going to find his mother, who was behind this research, and going to South America and all these things. This film does get into a lot about DNA research and the idea of playing with those sort of things, but it also is able to be a really entertaining, cool movie at the same time, which is really cool, like action adventure type of film. It starts off when he's like trying to find Baggy, and it's like obviously in the future or whatever. It's like spaghetti western score, like all the framing in this film is like really excellent. The animation you can tell there's like cost cutting because of it's TV animation and stuff like that, but at the same time the framing is absolutely excellent, I really have to say. And there's especially a cool thing where like suddenly he's driving his motorcycle, the main character, Ryu, I guess we'll call him, is driving his motorcycle, and suddenly the whole background turns black and it's just him. Or when he hears about how all the other test animals were killed and you see them raining down in the background, everything's black. Very effective in terms of shots and sort of composition. I was honestly surprised that I'd never seen, mostly when we think of TV animation here, we don't think of the composition of the shots being on this level. Usually when you see that, you see it in a feature film where they have that much more time to take on it. You can tell everyone who animated this knew their shit and knew how to present a story. That probably is why I'm even wanting to talk about it more fully, because I was actually surprised at how well directed it is. I probably should see more. I know he's mainly known for more like TV series and stuff, but I would actually like to review more of his films because I actually found this to be like a really cool experience. But he starts off in a spaghetti western. He can frame exactly like Sergio Leone, if you ask me. It's not like Sergio Leone good, but it's still like very impressive with Sergio Leone type music. Then when you switch to the past, it becomes more anime type music, almost like sitcom-y, weird synth stuff, and kind of like switches in between, which there's like a lot going on in this movie, and the score really reflects that. Osamu Tezuka just does a really great job overall directing this. Like, it's very compelling. Like, I kind of didn't even think of, like, I was more caught up in what he was trying to say with the film and the adventure of it, and less like this is a sexy cat lady or whatever, which it wasn't to me, but I'm just saying. When they go and kind of see the DNA research lab and everything and go into it, it kind of brings up a lot of things with doing DNA research, or man playing God, because it brings up the idea, first off, that Baggy has nowhere to go, no one to form allegiance to. There's nothing that society can really do for her. She's like, there's no one for her to mate with, there's nothing. And there's kind of like this world that humans have created for her, and they're just like, I don't know, whatever, it's your life now, Baggy, have fun being what's considered a freak in our society, I guess. And that kind of shows like one of the problems with sort of the idea of DNA research like that you create these creatures and not have like any sort of system to really let these creatures strive. As well as it brings up other issues, which I find interesting and sort of counter what he's trying to say, because this is very obviously a political film. It's talking about the Japanese government. When they get into his mom, and then when they go to South America, and she's doing research and she's trying to help out the South American government, and we hear about that he's having like outlaws or whatever off to the sides that he's really annoyed by. She's trying to make rice that is like super, will feed people better or more, and they'll make more of it, it'll be cheaper or something like that. It's to help the town basically. And she makes it, and then she gives it to these animals, and they all die. And at first she's like horrified, and she's like, okay, well, we'll like start over because we just like killed everybody with this rice, and that was obviously not what we wanted. And he's like, hold up, could I have some of that killer rice to get rid of the guys who object to me? Because that would be really nice if I had like some killer rice, you know what I'm saying? They'll just be like, here's free rice, and then they'll all die. And she was horrified. But that's the other thing with this DNA stuff, is like, you are paid for by the government. And what the government chooses to do with that research, because, they're paying the bills, is not maybe what you wanted to do. The kind of flip on that is, this is a film about the Japanese government, not South America, not anywhere else, and he doesn't choose to criticize Japan. He chooses to criticize this government, who we don't even really, I forget where in South America they say, but it's just like kind of like throwing the blame somewhere else. If you're making a film about a particular political statement about a particular country's decision, you should maybe have it take place in that actual country and not leave to make like the real political message on like the problems with DNA research, not go like, oh, well, in another country, they'll really screw it up. That felt a little like spineless in a way. Like, why go to another research center like to make this movie longer? Were you short on time or something? Or was there an actual point to that? I don't know a ton about this political issue he's making a film at, and maybe, hey, there was some relationship between Japan and South America that was going on in 1984 that I don't really fully know the geopolitical subtleties of. I'm sure that's probably possible, but in my mind, if I'm making a thing that's criticizing this one thing, I don't then just go to this other thing just because, like, whatever, that shows it too. I felt like that kind of like ruins the whole point of it. It makes the point about the DNA research, but it takes away the point that you're trying to say about your own country because you made it take place somewhere else. That feels weak to me. Maybe there's a censorship issue, or I don't really understand how those kind of things work in Japan. Maybe you couldn't have it be critical of that, so I have thought of that possibly. Maybe that's what was going on, but it just did feel like you're kind of like removing the whole political statement by doing that. But whatever, there might be other things going on, which maybe he felt he couldn't push it that far. I do really like how this film goes into that, and it brings up a lot of good points. I'm not saying I'm fully against something like that. I do think he could have shown that there's like, hey, maybe some positives to it. This feels like more of a cautionary tale in more of like kind of a former generation's way of making stories like this. This might be considered more like anti-DNA recombination research kind of propaganda, but hey, it was really good at being that propaganda, so who cares, As a character, Baggy, I thought, is playing this very tragic like female character. I liked her like magical powers and stuff like that. I liked her fighting all these weird animal research things, and I think in general it's a really compelling kind of cool movie. I don't know if it 100% is like this amazing classic or something like that you must see because Osamu Tezuka directed and everything like that. I wasn't like bored by it. I was really interested in it. It made me actually think about this issue, you know, in a real way. I think there's certain films, whether they're good or bad, that at least make you think about an issue that you would have never thought about. Is kind of one of the things I actually like about filmmaking storytelling, because suddenly I'm like thinking about this issue, and then suddenly brings it up and you have more info on it, because suddenly you're like, oh, I'll actually read that article now because I saw this film. And I found that to be actually interesting about it, as well as it showed me more about Osamu Tezuka, who I knew before, and I've seen Astro Boy, and I've seen a lot of the classic reasons that most people consider him to be a great animator and a great creator and everything like that. But seeing this film made me kind of think of him in a new light. You know, I guess most people are seeing this for furry reasons and things like that. I think this film is a lot more than that, and it's actually bringing up things about animal rights and research and using animals for research and what we're really doing to them and things of that nature. And also it's because Osamu Tezuka didn't seem to be fully interested in having sexy cat lady, although there is some of that, and you do get a lot of butt shots in this, so you know, maybe it's not like a wholly innocent thing or something like that. And she even gets like tied up by a crazy like plant octopusy thing, so you know, it kind of does go a little too far. I thought, you know, maybe this is a weirder, stranger movie to talk about or review, but I still kind of thought it was actually pretty good. I was definitely sort of into this film, and it's maybe not a great piece of one of the great animation creators of all time. It was still at least an interesting watch and a compelling one, and I think it still shows how good of a director Osamu Tezuka was, especially with TV animation, that you could like, you know, string this together as quickly as he did and it could still be as compelling and as well made as it really was. Shows a real kind of master filmmaker at work, regardless of if he really got the political message to stick its landing or not. So if you've seen Baggy, the Monster of Mother Nature, and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.